While the Mets are off, it's still a wild day in Mets news land. We get more insight when it comes to the pitching lineup for the next couple of games in the NLDS, plus a Garrett Crochet rumor killer already? It's not even the off season. We're breaking that all down on this edition of Mets Digest. What's going on, everybody? Flobo Boyce here, one half of the Mets Digest crew. Thank you so much for making sure you are part of the greatest channel on the YouTube network-ish. I don't know what they call this stuff, the platform, whatever. Listen, if you're watching right now and you love yourself some Mets content, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Myself, alongside Mike D'Angelo, we do our darndest to make sure you are locked into everything involving the orange and blue. Mets fans, let's get into it. How are you feeling? It's an off day after playing 2 games in Philadelphia for the NLDS, and it was a split at the bank, which sounds good on paper, but if you watch the second game, you probably would have thought that second game was winnable, and it kind of was winnable. But you know what? We moved. Still the best team in baseball since June, and we're coming off one of the longest road streaks I've seen in recent memory. We haven't been back at Citi Field for about 15 days. If you want to take it back, we hosted the Phillies at Citi Field before having to go to Atlanta for a 3-game series, of which we played one of those games, and then had to go to Milwaukee for the season finale, and then go back to Atlanta on day 163 to play that doubleheader, do or die, and then go back to Milwaukee for that wild card series, which we won in 3 full games, and then head over to Philadelphia for 2 games at the bank. And the fact that we're still rocking and rolling is a testament to how good this team is. So make sure you put all of those bad vibes aside. We don't have time for that. But one of the greatest surprises of the NLDS was the return of Kodai Senga. Now, the interesting thing about that was we weren't sure whether or not he was going to be used. We weren't sure he was going to be used in relief in the bullpen. Carlos Mendoza last week said Kodai was going to be the opening day starter. Well, I can't even call it a starter, more like an opener, because he only went 2 innings, but yet it was enough to keep the Phillies off balance. It was a master stroke. Kodai himself was pretty much unscouted this season because he only played 1 game, but really was enough to set up the bullpen to succeed. And we took that game from the Phillies, which, statistically speaking, would be a game the home team would be more likely to win in a road set. So props to that. The question now becomes, how is Senga going to be used moving forward, if at all? We have some insight. The team had a bunch of press conferences today. SNY has really been on the beat to understand what is going on inside the minds of the Mets brain trust. And for those of us who are living outside the United States who are like, what's SNY? That is a network that plays a Mets game. So if you're like from Europe or Australia, that's kind of like the network it's on, Sky Sports or something like that. Anyway, about Kodai, wham! Speaking on Monday, the team worked out at Citi Field. Carlos Mendoza, the Mets manager, said Senga feels good. He continues to feel good, Mendoza said. He's here now. He's doing everything he has to do to continue to feel that way. So progressing well in a good spot. Asked if Senga is in line to be the Game 5 starter, Mendoza said it's trending in that direction as of right now because Senga is not fully stretched out, and for that means being able to pitch a long set of innings back-to-back, right? That calls being stretched out for the non-baseball fans or non-hardcore fans. He could possibly be limited to 3 innings or so if he starts a potential Game 5. So Kodai very still much in the mix. And imagine that. I mean, if Kodai Senga gets warm and we push him to 3 innings or maybe 45 pitches or 50 pitches, that is a weapon that we didn't really have going in. I know there's a bunch of there's a propensity to say, oh man, why are we adding new cast of characters? We should be able to stick with the core. But again, I've said it a lot on this network that Luis Severino's had an innings limit or innings count that is unheard of, not only this year compared to last year, but the entirety of his career. He's well into the 100s, approaching 200 innings as we speak. But when it comes down to the bullpen and the starting lineups, one of the individuals we saw last week in a relief role was David Peterson. Petey is having a renaissance year, so of course we want more opportunities to see him on the mound if he has the hot hand, no pun intended about that, Mendoza says. He explained the Mets will continue to go game by game when it comes to how Peterson is used, and he won't hesitate to use a lefty in relief in Game 5 if he's needed. It makes sense, especially if Kodai Senga is going to be your starter there. Since Peterson needed just 1 day of rest between his 1 inning of work as he closed Game 3 of the wildcard series, this 3-inning relief outing in Game 1 of the NLDS, it's fair to believe he could pitch in relief in Game 4 and also be used in the series, which is Game 5, since it's a travel day in between. So that's correct. Game 3 and 4 are going to be at Citi Field in Queens, New York. Game 5 will have to be back in Philadelphia. Thankfully for the Mets, NY to Philadelphia is only a 2-hour bus ride, give or take, right, with traffic and all that stuff. But what I think was interesting was what's not mentioned is Edwin Diaz, someone who's pretty much had his last outing not go the way he's planned, but to be fair, has been an absolute workhorse for the team, having pitched 130 pitches in a week span, which is unheard of for a closer and definitely a reliever, the elite level of Edwin Diaz. So you want to be able to temper some of that load. Hopefully we'll have some games that are comfortable or as comfortable as a postseason game can be, where you won't have to go to that bag of tricks, because talk about being scouted, a lot of people know what Edwin Diaz is capable of, and it's kind of hard to go to the same option all the time. You want to ride that same pony. You want to keep your opponents guessing when it comes down. Hopefully there's more opponents, because I feel good about the series personally. That's me editorializing. I do think we have a chance of moving on and advancing, and I don't know about you, but Los Angeles and San Diego are having an absolute war of attrition right now, and maybe that might be an advantage to whoever wins this side of the bracket, whether us or Philadelphia, but Philadelphia doesn't count for this. So we know about Senga, we know about Peterson. What about Jose Quintana? Here is somebody about a month and a half ago, I'll be honest with you, I was on this channel saying, I don't know if you can trust him, but has been absolutely lights out since then and had a chance to really put everything away in Milwaukee. And so when it comes down to where Quintana's going to be used, we have a definite answer. Q, with Senga having pitched Game 1, followed by Luis Severino in Game 3, and Minaya will pitch Game 3 before the Mets hand the ball to Quintana in Game 4. Quintana was masterful against the Brewers in Game 3 of that wild card series, absolutely, tossing 6 shutout innings while allowing 4 hits, walking 1, and striking out 5. Quintana was someone I said I didn't really have all the faith in the world. Has totally shut me up, and sometimes you really need your team to do that, right? Sometimes you don't have faith in some players that come through, like Pete Alonso, that fantastic home run in Milwaukee. I was always Team Pete, but I know some of the haters had to shut up after that. But the reason why I bring up Quintana brings us to our last story here on this edition of Mets Digest is that at the end of the season, the Mets will have to really consider what would be their starting rotation. I know winning trying to change that, maybe, but you have Quintana, you have Minaya, and you have Severino all becoming free agents at the end of the season. So very much the rotation will look different next year. Hopefully Senga could be healthy. There'll definitely be some chips. I know there's talk about Corbin Burns, but there was an article out there by Sports Illustrated, and I gotta give them the credit or discredit they deserve, because I don't quite believe this, but I have to show you in the interest of journalistic integrity, I guess. I'm not really integral, but anyway, Garrett Crochet, the standout for the White Sox with the losing his team in modern history, but somehow pretty much no-hit us through 4. The last time we met Garrett Crochet has been talks to be able to move from the south side of Chicago, and even though there really hasn't been anything concrete about handing him over to Queens, Grant Young at SI.com disagrees. However, free agency isn't the only way New York could secure another ace. An article from Bleacher Report's Tim Kelly noted that one of the league's most elite left-handed starters will be on the trade block this winter, and the Mets can come calling. See, that's the sentence that trips me up, right? Right there, that says the Mets could come calling. There really isn't any story for that. There really isn't any backstory for that. It's just saying that, there's no proof, there's no article, there's no talk, there's no discussion. I don't really believe this quite as much, but let's have some fun. If I had a chance to look at the stats there for Garrett Crochet, I would say the man has definitely earned his keep and will be at home at any other ball team because he's just that darn good. I got to be absolutely honest with you. I would love to have someone like that over with a team, over with this team as it is right now. So I understand the idea of having Garrett Crochet be in that mix, but frankly, without any concrete rumors, without any concrete talk, without any other evidence or corroborating evidence, right now it's a pipe dream. I'm going to call this a rumor killer for now, but of course, if something changes, we'll keep you in the know. That does it for this edition of Mets Digest. Mets faithful, how do you feel about the series? How do you feel about the other NLDS going down in Southern California? Do we think we escape this series without having to go back to the bank? Do you think it's going to be a Game 5? Do you think, unfortunately, we're going to have the L of the season? Please don't say that if you believe that, because it's the wrong channel, and Grimace will hate you for saying that, but I'm just putting it out there. My name is Flobo Boyce. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Mets Digest. Let me know what you think of the videos and all the other content in the comments below. But until next time, as always, it's LGM to the bitter end.